Have you ever noticed how often we say we want freedom, yet live as if we're trapped in invisible chains? We tell ourselves we crave peace, clarity, authenticity. But instead, we spend our days adjusting our behavior to meet expectations, some spoken, some just silently assumed. We worry about how we're perceived, how we measure up, how we compare. And without realizing it, we start living for validation instead of truth. Marcus Aurelius, one of the wisest emperors to ever rule, once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Thousands of years later, nothing has changed. We're still caught in the same web, trapped by the gaze of others, shackled by the fear of disapproval. But here's the good news. There is a way out. The Stoics never promised a life without challenge. What they offered was something more profound, a mindset strong enough to walk through chaos without being ruled by it. They taught that we can't control the world, but we can control how we respond to it. That real peace doesn't come from perfect circumstances, but from inner clarity. So what if the chains you feel aren't made of steel, but of thought, of assumptions, of the quiet belief that you're only worthy when others say you are? This video isn't about escaping life. It's about engaging with it differently. It's about stepping off the treadmill of performance and stepping into a deeper kind of presence. One rooted in your own values, not someone else's applause. Because maybe real freedom isn't something you earn. Maybe it's something you remember. And this is the first step back to it. Let's talk about the hidden cost of fitting in. Every day, we follow unwritten rules. Dress this way, speak that way, don't stand out too much. These rules were passed down generations ago, crafted by cultures, institutions, or people we'll never meet. And most of us never stop to ask, do they still serve us? Or are we simply playing a role we didn't choose? Take Diogenes the Cynic. He pushed back against these inherited codes in the most radical way possible. He gave up comfort, rejected wealth, and lived in a barrel. Why? Not because he loved poverty, but because he wanted to train his mind to be free. Free from the need for approval. His life was his protest, his bare existence, a challenge to everything society held sacred. Now, I'm not saying we should all move into barrels. But what if we took one small step toward our own kind of courage? Wearing what genuinely feels like us, even if it's not trending. Speaking a truth out loud, even if our voice shakes. Choosing integrity over performance. Because here's the secret. The fear of judgment is often louder than the judgment itself. Most people are too caught up in their own insecurities to watch yours. So, ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't trying to impress anyone? That's where your freedom begins. What if the strength you're seeking isn't found in comfort, but in the willingness to face discomfort head-on? The Stoics believed that real power begins with indifference, not apathy, but practiced detachment from praise or criticism. They taught that if you can stay steady in both applause and silence, you've won something the world can't take from you. Cato, a Roman senator and Stoic, lived this principle with fierce devotion. He intentionally wore plain clothing in a culture obsessed with appearance. He walked barefoot in the streets and didn't flinch when mocked for it. Why? Because he believed that resilience was something you train, just like a muscle. And the gym for that muscle is discomfort. Now think about that. When was the last time you let yourself be awkward, or imperfect, or unpolished? True freedom begins when we stop performing. When we let go of the script and allow ourselves to be seen not as perfect, but as real. Psychologist Carl Jung spoke of the courage it takes to face the shadow within us. Socrates spent his life asking uncomfortable questions. And Plato believed that the soul grows when it meets truth, even when truth hurts. So maybe the next time you feel the need to fit in, ask yourself, is it worth trading my authenticity for approval? Because every time you choose courage over comfort, you're not just growing, you're becoming more fully yourself. Let's be honest. How many times have you stopped yourself from doing something just because you imagined people would judge you? We think the world is watching us, that every little misstep is being analyzed, every awkward moment remembered. But here's the truth. Most people are far too busy thinking about themselves to think about you. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, learned this in an unforgettable way. His teacher once embarrassed him in public on purpose just to prove a point, and the lesson stuck. People don't care nearly as much as we think they do. The fear is often in our heads, not in the world. So the next time you feel paralyzed by the imagined gaze of others, remind yourself, attention doesn't equal value. Applause is fleeting. It might feel good in the moment, but it doesn't build anything lasting. Instead of chasing approval, focus on purpose. Build quietly. Live with integrity. Let your growth speak for itself. Because the less you worry about being watched, the more room you have to actually live. In a world overflowing with opinions, one of the most powerful things you can do is filter them. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every critique deserves a seat at the table of your self-worth. When someone offers feedback, pause and ask yourself, do I genuinely respect this person's values, their wisdom, their way of living? Because if the answer is no, why let their opinion shape your self-image? The Stoics were clear on this. Protect your peace, like it's sacred. Because it is. Think about it. How often do we waste time trying to win the approval of people we wouldn't even trade lives with? It's like polishing a mirror just to impress someone who's not even looking. The truth is, you can't control how others see you. Some will misunderstand you no matter what. But you can control how you show up. Not once or twice, but consistently with integrity. Aristotle once said, excellence is not an act, but a habit. And that habit starts with alignment. Living in a way that matches your values, even when no one's clapping. Because when you choose your influences wisely, you're not just filtering noise, you're curating the voice of your future self. Let's be honest, reputation is a fragile thing. One misunderstood moment, one unpopular opinion, and suddenly the tide can turn. But here's the truth. Reputation may follow you, but it should never lead you. Carl Jung once said, who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. And that awakening begins the moment we realize our worth doesn't come from applause, it comes from alignment. Society trains us to chase visibility, to shape our image, filter our truth, and perform for approval. But history doesn't remember the well-liked, it remembers the ones who stood firm. Take Socrates. He didn't cater to crowds. He asked questions that made people uncomfortable. He refused to compromise truth for popularity. And yes, he was sentenced to death for it. But his ideas? They outlived empires. There's a reason why the Stoics warned against being a slave to reputation. When you tie your identity to the shifting winds of public opinion, you're constantly at war with yourself. But when you let go, when you prioritize authenticity over applause, something powerful happens. You become unshakable. You stop living for likes. You start living from truth. Because your values, not your image, are your anchor. And in a world obsessed with being seen, quietly being real is a revolutionary act. Discomfort isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes, it's a sign you're finally doing something real. Most of us avoid what scares us. We don't speak up in the meeting. We don't ask the question that might make us look silly. We stay quiet, hidden, rehearsed, because fear whispers, play it safe. But here's the truth. Fear doesn't shrink when you ignore it. It grows. In the dark corners where we hide our voice, our questions, our courage, that's where fear multiplies. But when you shine a light on it, when you lean in, even just a little something shifts. The Stoics didn't believe in avoiding fear. They believed in meeting it head on. And not just in dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime ways, but in the daily decisions. Cato wore rough clothes in public to get used to judgment. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that discomfort was a natural part of growth. These weren't acts of self-punishment, they were acts of freedom. Because every time you lean into discomfort, you send your nervous system a new message. You're safe. You're capable. You're stronger than you think. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to keep moving while fear rides in the passenger seat. So, start small. Post your opinion online. Speak up in the room. Ask the dumb question. Not because you want attention, but because you're training something deeper. Your trust in yourself. And like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Virtue, the Stoics believed, is built through repetition. You don't wait until you feel fearless to act. You act until you stop letting fear decide. So the next time discomfort shows up, don't run. Welcome it. It's not your enemy. It's your invitation to grow, to evolve, to become. So, after all the noise, the pressure, the performing, what's left? You. And that's where the real approval begins. The Stoics believe that peace doesn't come from applause. It doesn't come from being liked or followed or praised. It comes from living in alignment with your values, the quiet knowing that you showed up with honesty, with courage, and with integrity. When you can look in the mirror and say, I lived today on purpose, that's freedom. Not everyone will get you. Not everyone will applaud your journey. And that's okay. As Epictetus once said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because the path to clarity isn't paved with approval, it's walked with conviction. So here's your invitation. Stay steady, stay clear. Keep walking your own path, not the loudest path, not the trendiest path, but the truest one. Because when you stop chasing external validation and start honoring your own truth, life begins to feel lighter, braver, real. And that's not just Stoic philosophy, that's what it means to be free.